FilmStruggles is an experience-based podcast where we ask all the questions an early filmmaker would make.
With a new guest every week, from experts to people that are starting just like us.
We cover different topics like motivation, work balance, networking, and so much more.
We discuss what to do, what not to do, and how to turn struggles into action.
I am Claudia.
And I am Gabriel. Welcome to FilmStruggles. As storytellers, we have a powerful educational tool on our hands, which can shape and reshape our society. Our stories, especially when they come from personal places and diverse points of view. On today's episode of FilmStruggles, we're talking about diversity, racism, and what is the role of the film industry in all of that.
Our special guest for this episode is Joan Digba, a Nigerian-born, British-bred Canadian with a love for sci-fi and all things animated. She uses her perspective to craft stories with imaginative visuals, rich world building, and emotionally connective moments. When she's not writing or producing, she's either building events for BIPOC TV and film or watching anime. And she agreed to share a little bit of her experience as a BIPOC filmmaker. Let's jump right into it.
So just to start things, I'm just very curious to know why film, what sparkled you the interest in film?
Oh, that's a very good question. Because as a Nigerian person, my background, there tends to be only 3 or 4 professions that are allowed. Like you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be an engineer.
Yep.
And at one point, when I first said to my parents that I wanted to do film and TV, in their head they had, and it's very bad that I'm blanking on her name, but there was a weather girl apparently here in Toronto that they saw. She was definitely Black. I don't know if she was also Nigerian, but because my parents saw her, they were like, okay, you can be like her. And they were okay, and they supported me, which was really great.
Oh,
but
that's good.
I think that lends to the fact that it's important to see ourselves on screen and to see ourselves represented, because I think it opens up all sorts of doors in terms of possibility. Like even if our immigrant parents were the types to say, no, you can only be like, a certain type of person, they worked very hard to bring us over here from the motherland and to give us access to a certain type of life. They might have like a stereotype image of what artists do. So being able to see artists that look like us that are doing well tells them, oh no, it's okay. Your son or daughter or non-binary child can be in these positions and do well.
Yeah.
It is possible, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and this is like this is the topic that we wanted to discuss, the importance of representation of every community, and also all the struggles that we go through that while trying to do that and having that representation on screen. This importance of raising your voice and that you not all the time feel safe doing that. And now that you mention it, the importance of having and being represented in front and behind the screen.
So when I started out, I always had an image of working within like the film and television industry. I know it sounds dumb, but I didn't even know advertising existed until I found myself in an advertising internship when I first finished school. So that was sort of like my first opportunity. I mean, it's all still filming as well. There's just extra layers, on top of and below and around the filming activity that you have to get used to. There's a lot of politics. You're dealing with a lot of like the layers of the agency, and then the layers of the client, and then the layers of your vendors. But even within the agency, there's many different positions. And oftentimes, especially when you're starting out, and it depends on the climate of the agency you're in, sometimes there is this feeling that you are pigeonholed into a particular positional role. So I was an agency producer. I was not a line producer. I've actually switched into line producing in the past 2 years. But when I was an agency producer, I would work with the vendors, so the production houses and the directors, to execute the script and basically realize it for, the screen or radio, whatever it might be. But depending on what agency I was with and who I was with, there was sometimes this feeling that the agency producer, instead of being like an important asset or element as part of a team, was a paper pusher. So sometimes it felt like, don't have an opinion, we don't want to hear what you have to say, just be quiet and do the thing that we asked you to do. Mm-hmm. Which is very intimidating when you first start out.
Yeah.
There's already so much about the industry that you don't know, and you're trying to navigate. And there's so much about the industry that is unwritten rules in a way, and you're trying to find your way through without necessarily, stepping on something that's going to like blow up in your face, essentially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So to add on top of that, this feeling of you can't have your say is not the safest space to be. And it actually took me a while for me to realize that, no, I do have a voice, I have an opinion, and it should be heard, and I should voice it. And especially because I was an agency producer, if you play your cards right, that is a position that grants you a certain amount of power, if you will. Yeah. I say the word power, even though it's very easy to be in that position and be completely powerless and have the ability to do absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. But it's also, if you play your cards right, you can take that position and you can say, okay, everyone, I'm going to give you a very strong point of view on this thing that we're doing and try and influence, for example, the casting and why casting shouldn't always be like super, super white. And mm-hmm. I'm going to try and influence like, hey, you said this thing, let's analyze that a bit. What does that mean? Are you mm-hmm. seeing and understanding that in saying that you might be preventing, certain interesting things from happening in the creative? Oftentimes when I was in the casting room, I was the only minority in that room the whole day. Mm-hmm. And I had a conversation with the casting director about how to fix it. And they mentioned that we had to specify the race. And I at the time, I didn't understand. I was like, but we said it's open to all ethnicities. Then mm-hmm. why, like, I'm not seeing the matchup with that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So what I decided to do, because I finally clued into like, hey, I'm the agency producer. This is what I should be doing. And I have the power to do this. Before I do my shoot, pick up the phone and say, I do not want to be the only minority in that room by the end of that casting session. Make sure mm-hmm. it happens. Click. Mm-hmm. That's all you got to do. And then suddenly people are like, because I'm their client, right? They're like, yes, okay, let's try hard. Let's reach out to all the communities and let's get a more diverse casting. And then all of a sudden, there's more options that are racially diverse in front of my team. Mm-hmm. And then I know, okay, now I can go and tackle the team and like their biases to try and like see what I can do to say, oh, I really like this person, even if I don't have to like push my opinion, but at least to voice it mm-hmm. can allow a chance for things to be influenced in a better way as opposed to a worse way. Mm-hmm. So even when you feel like you can't say anything and that you shouldn't say anything, still try and say something, because saying something is better than saying nothing. But I will say, and this is something that takes tact, takes time, and takes experience, is that there's a way to say something. People are more likely to hear you if you say it in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And that comes with studying the people in the room, studying how they respond to things, studying the personality types. You will find that there are certain ways that you can bring something up gently that helps them to kind of like stop, think about it,
reflect,
move in a different direction. You don't have mm-hmm. to push anything in a certain way, just suggestions. That's all it has to be.
Mm-hmm. It's really nice that you said that right now, because my next question is related to that. Like, how was your approach and how was the reception once you started voicing your opinions and making your voice heard?
I will say that when I first started doing it, it was definitely not easy. Mm-hmm. There was pushback. There were times when people would say things like, I might see a script and say, hey, everyone in the script is male and they're all white. Can we, at least make the voiceover female, or, whatever it might be? Because there are just some times when if a brand is aiming at men,
it would make sense.
Okay, well, yeah. Like, obviously, then the ad might be full of men, but like, why can't we open up the ethnicity of the men that we're seeing on screen? Or even if it's like a spot aimed at women, and then it's like a man who's the commanding voiceover, it's like, oh, can't we, you start making small suggestions, and then you get a lot of pushback, like, oh, why would we do that? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't have the authority, which is all related to this. The problem is, in my opinion, there is a lot of advertising that is geared towards a very narrow and specific demographic that is reflective of a very white, middle to upper middle class point of view. It is not very open to the experiences and point of views of those outside of those bands. So even if, it has people of other cultures present, like maybe there's a Black person in the ad, it still sometimes, to me, feels a little bit like
it's there.
Yeah, it's the white ad, but with the Black person.
Yeah. Just to keep everyone happy, there it is, like,
exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes. So there's a lot of that sort of societal biases that still need to be tackled, and that will take time. And so you will get pushback when you start to voice your opinion. Nonetheless, take the time to voice what it is that you have to say. And the other thing that I find helps a lot is reputation. If you have a very good reputation and you are very good at what you do, eventually people start to listen to you, and you use that to your advantage, essentially. And sometimes it's not always going to work, and sometimes it's not the right environment, and they just won't take. They just won't listen. Don't fight it. You will probably end up finding yourself in a better environment or situation that can help you grow and develop. And in those situations or those places of employment, you then begin to feel empowered to say more, and then you learn how to say those things better. So I know that's a very, very long-winded answer. I'm really sorry. But essentially what I mean by all of this is that you can try your best and still get a lot of flack for trying for trying your best on that.
Yeah.
And sometimes, even though when you try, the environment may not be right to help support you and to help you grow. And I don't know what everyone's situation is. I don't know if it's easy for someone to like switch jobs or whatever that might be. But the nice thing about our industry is that, especially if you're freelance, you have a lot of different opportunities to work with a lot of different people, which means you end up finding yourself in so many different work environments. You start to find the ones that are like, yes, this is the one. And it kind of becomes like a builder for you in terms of your skills, in terms of learning how to manage those expectations and managing the strong personalities, so that you can be able to become that more confident person that you are meant to be. And then you sort of, with experience, with time, with practice, it all starts to come together, and you feel comfortable doing it. So it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. And it's going to take as well working with many different types of people to help you figure that out.
Yeah, like having a support system, right?
Exactly. A support system is wonderful. If you have a mentor who can help you, like, let's say you can't get out of a particular, place of work or situation or whatever you have, and you just have to figure out how to navigate it. Finding someone who can be a mentor to help you, give you the experience, maybe give you a different perspective that can help you handle that person, is like a lot of what you need to help you grow.
And I wanted to go back a little bit of something that you said about the bias and everything around that, because how can we start being, for example, more conscious of the importance of representations? I'm just going to put an example in here. Before I came into Vancouver, I don't know, like maybe because I was in Mexico and everything was kind of maybe more privileged, and I was doing a completely different thing. Once I start seeing here like representation and diversity and open to all ethnicities, I was kind of like curious, and at the same time was like, why is it this more important? Why is it this important? Like, why do I need to be conscious of that? So, because for example, the example, the clear example that I wanted to give, and it was working with Gabe, that he mentioned, like, I want to do this film, but I want to say in that all ethnicities were welcome into this casting call that we were gonna put. And I was like, I kind of, it wasn't because I didn't wanted to do that, but I didn't even think about that, you know. Like, I was like, sure, we can put it, but at the same time I was like, I never thought about it because it was maybe for me at that time not important to put it there, while I'm Mexican and I'm of color and everything, and I'm like, why I didn't think about that. And it was like, kind of, how can we start maybe for these starting and emerging filmmakers to put that seed in their minds?
It's very important for us all to tackle our unconscious biases, because when you don't, you maintain the status quo. And the status quo is a system that is set for certain people to succeed and for many other certain people to fail. And that inherently is an unjust system. So when you tackle your unconscious bias, you are making sure that you personally are not contributing to this unjust system. So I think a good example, which is very common here in Canada, is I will say that I also very wrongly did not see the problem with this way of thinking until recently. The whole idea of, well, I don't see race, I don't see color, everyone's the same, everyone is equal. Before, when white people would say that to me, I was like, yeah, sure, great. And I would go about my day, not realizing that thinking, if you start to analyze that thinking, it is a problematic way of thinking. If you don't see color, that means you do not see the patterns that are happening to people of certain races. Which means you do not see the patterns of aggression, and you do not see the patterns of racism against those same people, which means that you become complicit in that same system.
Yeah, you're part of it. You're part of the whole issue. Yeah.
And because you hold that unconscious bias, you then outwardly present yourself a certain way and behave in a certain way that then allows that to persist. So that's why even for myself, I had to look at that and realize that that was the wrong way of thinking, and that I had to challenge that within myself as well. Even though I'm Black, there's still things that I need to challenge within myself, because there's a lot of internalized racism that can still, come into place through history, through, what you might have experienced as a child and all of that. So there are things that I had to tackle and dismantle myself, and there are things that other people will have to do the same. So I would say that for the sake of society and the way things work with the system, it is important to tackle your unconscious biases for those reasons. Now, how do you tackle them is a bit of a trickier answer. And what I would say is this: you have to educate yourself. And there's lots of information that is out there. And historically, it is always on the oppressed to educate their oppressors, and that is wrong. The work is out there, the information is out there. People, it's not like people are saying these things for the first time. It's you have to be.
It's been there,
Exactly. So it's now up to people to be able to educate themselves and put the onus on themselves to be able to seek out the information that can help them question what it is that they're thinking, question why things are a certain way, and then question how they can help tear those down. So like, even if you're watching something, or in your example, when you saw the breakdown of, open to all ethnicities, and then you ask, oh, why is that the case? Good question. And then you look into that question, and then that helps you learn some things, which then helps you to adjust your framework and adjust your biases. There's one thing that I think is important as well with all of this is teaching your kids teaching your kids, teach your kids, teach your kids.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a child, my parents, from a young age, would tell me how I am supposed to conduct myself in this world as a Black woman. And they gave me those lessons because they were lessons that were necessary for me to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And I got these lessons from when I'm a child. And you know what? There are a lot of POC children out there who have been treated like adults, even when they were children, because they were POC. They weren't granted the same childhood freedoms as their white counterparts. So for all the white parents out there who are like, oh, but I don't want my kids to know about race. No. If everyone else's parents are already teaching their kids what it's like to live in the world as a POC, you need to teach your child what it means to be a white person within the world and how to conduct yourself accordingly. It cannot just be the POCs having this lesson. It needs to be everyone.
Everyone, yeah.
Yeah, education amongst everyone, important.
When you are either like on a project or anything that you do, and when you feel you're being discriminated, or you feel like you are not being heard, or something has been done to you in this very passive aggressive way that you don't always see it because they don't say it straight to your face, but you feel it kind of in your gut. So I don't know what are the ways that we can, because it has happened to me. Even it was because of my accent. It was not even for the way that I look. It was because of my accent that someone said something to me, and I was like, at the moment I didn't know how to respond, but then I gave it some thought, and I was like, does this really happen, and what is the best way to respond or to react to that? So I don't know if because for me it was like I stood like quiet and shocked, and I kind of let it happen. So I don't want that to happen again.
I wish I had an excellent answer for you, but I'm still very much guilty of exactly the reaction that you're talking about.
Okay.
The thing that I need to get better at is speaking up when something has been done that harms someone, even if it's not you personally, even if it's someone else. I'm not very good at speaking up, especially when it's me. I'm not very good at speaking up. Sometimes I'm a bit better when it's like someone else.
Yeah.
And I need to get better at that. I think that part of practicing it is you feel it instinctually when, someone has said something that is racially insensitive. And I don't mean like they've gone out and said an actual racial slur. I'm talking about exactly what you're talking about. And it's an uncomfortable feeling. Don't be the only one to sit in it. Maybe what you need to do, and I apologize because, again, I'm not very good at this. I need to learn how to do this myself. But I think the next time it happens to me and I feel that feeling, it's a matter of gently pointing it out, but maybe in the form of a question.
Okay.
Like, oh, what did you mean about that? Because when you point it out as a question, it's not like you're calling them out.
Yeah.
It's gentle, it's subdued. And it forces them to think and to explain. And then when they're forced to explain, and again, I'm going off of theory right now because I have not had the chance to do this so much.
To try it.
Yes, I'm hoping that they try and say something rational. They will try and rationalize it.
Yeah.
Which makes it easier for you to then rationalize back why that thing was a problem and help them understand.
Yeah.
Just a conversation, not to make them feel like you are the bad guy and you did a bad thing and you are X label. It's not about the person, it's about the behavior. And hopefully in having them call into question the behavior and what it means and how it comes across, they can hopefully understand. I've started to try and practice this sometimes with friend groups, and not necessarily on like racial subjects. Sometimes even just on social economic.
Yeah, politics and stuff like that. Yeah.
When I've had a couple of friends say something that I was like, this is like not on. This is not okay what this person said. Just like going in there, like, what did you mean? Did you know that when you said X, you were referring to this? Did you know this? Did you know this other thing? Like, here's some educational pieces to help you
we go back to the education and educate yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that you understand why, like, the thing you said so casually, it's a bit of a problem.
Might not be good. Yeah.
Do you still find yourself frequently in this position where you have to like kind of rationalize those affirmations?
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Yes.
I'm more asking this.
Not super frequently.
Okay.
It's not like it's an everyday thing and it happens like all the time.
No, yeah, I think I'm asking this mainly because both me and Claudia, we're still very early stages in the process of building a career. So I don't know, because we are very fortunate in this industry that we can kind of choose the people that we work with.
Nice. Good.
But at the same time, the bias is still there. So from time to time, you definitely have to see yourself back in this position, like, oh my God, I have to do this again. I have to explain this, or I have to do that. So I was really curious to know, like, if this is still something that is around, like, in your professional environments.
It is still around. I will say this. The amount of situations that made me feel less than decreased a lot when I switched over to the production side. There are still situations, don't get me wrong, it's not like it all but disappeared. But when I was on the agency side, there were times where I would be in a room, the only POC, surrounded by white people, and it's like I'm a ghost. Like somehow they're all having a conversation and I can say something and they will hear what I've said, but they won't even look me in the eye to answer me back. They're looking at everyone else. It's surreal and it's awful and you feel like a ghost. Yeah. And it happened a fair amount of times on the agency side. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the position that I went into because I was the line producer or something. But even then, as the agency producer, really shouldn't be ignored. But some people treat you as paper pushers, so I guess it is possible. But when I switched to being the line producer on the production side, you have no choice but to hear my voice. Yeah. Because I'm producing your project.
And also I think the confidence that you start building within yourself that allows you to do that.
Yes.
And for example, now that we are seeing all this, how, because that's a fact and we can change the way we look and anything within our person. So how can we use, for example, being people of color and then being emerging, being a woman. So how can we use all that to propel our careers and, you know, use it to our advantage? I don't know, in your experience, how has that been?
I would say that now more than ever, and I'm generalizing because I've only been in the ad industry for 7 years or so, 7 to 8 years. But this is the first time within advertising that I've heard all of these rumblings about caring about POC. It was very interesting that when things all started to change in other industries, I was worried that it wouldn't change in advertising, but then it started to. And that's exciting. That's really exciting. Yeah. So I say use it all to your advantage as much as possible because, and I'm sorry to sound cynical, unless people are going to put the money where their mouth is and put actual real support behind the things they're saying and to actually monitor it and to actually try and continue to allow these programs and initiatives to continue, it could all fizzle out. So not to give a sense of urgency like now or never, but use the momentum you have now to push you forward.
Exactly.
It's an active effort, constant effort, right?
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
that we are in these COVID times and everything that is going on, I've been going and going into a lot of Zoom and lives and everything that people are doing. And I remember this one Zoom that I think it was someone from CBC or something like I can't quite remember who said it, but it's stuck in my head that the person said like, if you are from a minority and then you're applying for a job, just say it in your email right now and use that to your advantage. Because I was kind of, now that I'm looking for a job and everything, now every time that I say in something like, I am a Mexican filmmaker, so like I use it, and
Yes.
before I didn't used to do that, so that was kind of a thing that it was really interesting for me to hear that.
Honestly, do it. Like, I'm sure there are gonna be some people who are gonna be like, "Oh, this is wrong," and blah blah. Listen, my friend, everybody else, all the white people have been getting the spotlight. White women too. When diversity initiatives first came out, guess who was getting it all? White women, not actually POCs. So let me tell you, now's our time. We're gonna take it because if that's what we need to get our foot in the door, that's what we're gonna do. And you know what? For all those people who, in the back of their mind, they're just saying, "Oh, this is just a box checker and whatever." Those are the people who haven't worked with us and don't know that we are extremely capable, like everybody else. Let the work start to speak for itself. You gain a reputation, and then soon people will just be sharing your name everywhere. They'll even forget that you like applied or like you're a POC person. They're just like, "Oh, they're like one of us," because you know all these colorblind people like to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. If you want to say you don't see my race, let me make sure that you make sure I'm one of y'all, okay?
Yeah. During this pandemic, I didn't even know there was the BIPOC TV and film community until Gabe introduced that even concept and community to me, which I am very grateful for. Because if it weren't for the BIPOC film and TV community, I would have had even the opportunity to talk to one producer of this caliber that I had. So I wanted for you to talk a little bit about like you joining this community, and if you know about any other resources that we can, I don't know, like take a look into, as because you know like this was a new thing to me, so I don't know what else it's out there. So if you have any recommendations.
I joined BIPOC TV and Film in 2018 as a general volunteer. I was helping out with different events. And then this year, actually, the beginning of this year, I became their events architect. And when COVID hit, we then started to move a lot of our events online. And the nice thing about that is with Zoom, there's a bit of I want to be careful about how I put this, but we've been able to put a lot of programming out because it is online and because it is through an interface like this. Like the fact that Vancouver were able to even join us is because of Zoom.
Exactly.
Otherwise, if it was a face-to-face event, a face-to-face meeting, then you guys wouldn't have had the chance.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yes, exactly. So the lovely thing about new technologies like this is that some barriers, and I have to be specific, some barriers, not all, there are still other barriers that will exist with technologies like this, but some barriers are able to be taken down a bit. And because of the nature of Zoom, there's sort of like this increased frequency to events and meetings. And I'm sure you've seen like a flurry of programming, not just from us, but from like all sorts of other people. People providing like master classes and things like that for free. Incredible. Like all this stuff that you probably either had to pay a lot for or wouldn't have seen as much of because of these times. It's the upside of being in our current pandemic. Use that. In terms of other resources, a lot of the resources that I will know of are unfortunately Toronto-centric and Toronto-based. I am not so privy to how things are in the Vancouver market, though I am sure that with some time, you know, things will grow. Vancouver is a very big market for filming, so we can't I'm sure that there will be things that will pop up for you guys, but I know that over here in Toronto, there are a number of other organizations that provide either things like mentorship, or they provide training opportunities, other sorts of access that can help you out. Some of them that I know of are POV. I know POV has like a PA trainership program, which looks really great on the resume. I've known some people who have worked in advertising, like on the production side, who came through that program. There's Black Women Film Canada, there's Regent Park Film Festival, there's the Remix Project, there's OYA Media Group. There are a lot of these groups that are out there. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of hunting and looking around to find them, or asking people that you know, because oftentimes the people who are in one group tend to either
be more
or be a part of or be active in other groups, you know. So in reaching out to people and talking to people and looking at the programming online, or even like on their Facebook, because I know that at one point we had an event that was it was a joint event with POV when we were talking about the hot docs. POV joined with BIPOC TV and Film talking about the hot docs application. Those sort of like crossover events tend to happen, so you start to find and open up your community.
Yeah.
We have this special question that we usually leave for the end. It's the same question that we ask all the guests that we have here. So because the name of the podcast is Film Struggles, we are very curious to know, what is your biggest film struggle right now?
Oh, right now even. Oh my gosh.
I love that no one's ready for this question. Every guest has the same reaction.
Yeah, I love it.
I think part of it is also because I have very recently gotten a new opportunity, and I'm going to have a chance to work on some television soon. So that's like a whole new world that's going to open up to me. And just, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it.
You still don't know what's going to be the struggle, but there it is.
But it's going to come.
Yeah, I don't know what the struggle's going to be. I know there will be struggles. There's always struggles with doing something new, because you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. So there's a lot to learn, but I don't think that you have to be afraid of learning. I don't think you have to be afraid of mistakes or messing up, because diamonds are forged in fire. Is that true? Any good stone is forged in fire. Only good things are forged in fire. Fire is what will forge you and make you a better person. You're not born perfect. You're not going to walk the earth perfect. You're not going to come out perfect. You only become close to perfection by going through strife. So you need struggles in order to come out better on the other end.
Oh my God, Joan, I think I'm going to steal that and use it as the intro for the podcast, you know? Joan, thank you so much. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to give us a review and share this with someone you think might need it.
Also, share with us your favorite quote.
You can find more information about the podcast and our guests on the website filmstruggles.com.
Remember to follow us at FilmStruggles on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Thank you for listening.
See you next week with a new guest
and a brand new struggle.
Film Struggles is hosted, produced, and edited by Claudia Hernandez Barragan and Gabriel Sousa Nunes.
Executive producer is Gerson Carranza and sound design by Sebastian Sagastumi.